the host of the Jim Ross Report, and you can see him tomorrow night with the King, Jerry Lawler, in Rosemont, Illinois, and that is our good friend, WWE Hall of Famer, Jim Ross. Jim, how are you this morning?
I'm great, guys. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, JR. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I woke up this morning above ground. I'm good. I'm good, Bubba.
Good.
And like I mentioned before, you have the big show coming up with the King, Jerry Lawler, at Zanies in Rosemont, Illinois, and you can go to zanies.com. There's just a few tickets left, so you're going to want to jump on it. And JR, before we get into the show, and I definitely want to get to hear about some of the details that fans can expect tomorrow night at Zanies, we've been talking a lot about Becky Lynch, and I am a big fan of your podcast, The Jim Ross Report, and you had Becky on just a couple of weeks ago, and of course, you can still hear that great show. It's just a couple of weeks old, and that's the big topic on our show today is Becky Lynch, and gosh, the fans love Becky, but the WWE is trying to push her as a heel. What do you think about this situation between Charlotte and Becky Lynch?
Well, I think that obviously both of them are main event level folks, and it just seems to me that based on the crowd reaction, which I still weigh heavily, it's like a market report, a focus group. They bought a ticket, which weren't cheap. They came in, they sat down, they parked, all that good stuff. I think maybe the roles are reversed a little bit. I think that, one, I think Charlotte has a great personality to be a heel, and I think she would have a blast doing it. And they've shown that you can be a PV villain and still do outside projects and sell merchandise and all those things. So there's that negative has been erased. But I think that Charlotte would be a great heel, a phenomenal heel, and I think that Becky is perfect for it to be a fan favorite. The issue is it's hard to get a 6 foot or 6'1" baby face and her get into a sell mode. And Bub, you understand this better than I do probably, but it's hard to get sympathy on a big guy. That's why when I hired Mick Foley back in the day, I needed a dancing partner for the Undertaker because you had a 7 foot, 300-pound baby face. It's hard for people to empathize with their hero in dire straits when they're bigger than their adversary. So it's just simple logic to me. But I got great faith in Becky. I thought her promo last night was full of conviction. Her mouth got dry. She was very nervous. It meant a lot to her because I'd exchanged text messages with her a couple of times this week, and she was very excited about the opportunity to talk more. She always felt like if she could talk a little bit more to her, she could quote unquote get over. But I'm a big Becky fan, but I'm also a big fan of Charlotte's. I just think you have an issue with having a 6'1" baby face and 5'5" heels.
JR, can you see them running into the same problem that they ran into with Daniel Bryan, that if creative is adamant about making Becky the heel, that the fans are just not going to have it?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. The audience is very defiant, and this issue is so clear-cut as to what the precondition of WWE wants it to be that fans are able to see through that. And they revolt, and they're defiant, and so I think there's definitely an issue there, big fella.
You know, Bully read a tweet just before we had you join the show, and it was a fan asking, "What's more important to the WWE, a storyline in front of an audience, or that mainstream appeal?" And Bully has said it on the air, and I agree. Charlotte's one of the three faces of this company right now. Is that mainstream appeal more important to them, especially if you're trying to push somebody like Charlotte to that mainstream?
I think it might have been a generation ago. I think it might have been in the past, without a doubt. But it's not that way today. Fans are smarter. They have more knowledge. And, I just think that they know what they want. And I've always been a firm believer. You give the audience what they want. We're selling to them. They're buying our product. Let's package it and make it available to them that we believe that they want. And they told us that Sunday night. They told us that on Tuesday night that they would love to see Becky as an underdog babyface. That formula has always worked. It still works today in a variety of facets. So we'll see what they do. It's like I heard Bubba mention how easy it would be to switch roles. It really is. It's one promo. It's a portion of one promo, and they're right where they want to be, because Charlotte is has everything that, the envy, the jealousy. She's big and tall and athletic and beautiful, and her attitude would kind of mesh with that, like the Nature Boy. I think a lot of people remember, hey, when they started announcing her as Charlotte Flair, you got to give them a little bit of flair. And, Rick didn't do moonsaults and all this crazy athletic stuff that Charlotte can do, but, man, he was a great psychologist. I think she's got the same traits.
JR, can you take us into that creative meeting or the process a little bit? If they're sitting in a creative meeting this morning, based on the reaction that Becky got last night, do you think they're reconsidering the direction, especially because they put out audio this morning on WWE.com where they took out all of the negative things that Becky said to the audience last night?
Absolutely. I that's one thing about Vince that I really believe is that he has no issues changing his mind. He has no issues unsaddling one horse and saddling up another, and based on what he feels is best, and that goes on his instinct. So yeah, I got to believe that when you hear that reaction, I didn't understand all the open heel vernacular that Becky was spewing, because she's got a much better story to tell that's real and organic. I mean, it's really real, that I am much more compelled to hear than a wrestling promo where a babyface is turning heel based on being done wrong. This seemed untimely to me.
I totally agree. And I want to kind of shift it over from SmackDown to Monday Night Raw really quick. And that is, the women's champion on that brand, Ronda Rousey. And she just won the championship on Sunday at SummerSlam. And a lot of fans think that this is another build that isn't organic and it might be a little too much too soon. Do you feel that way about Ronda Rousey being champion right now?
No, I really don't. She's a significant long-term investment, and the three of us probably don't know her long-term plans as far as family, maybe being a mom someday, and how long she wants to be active in wrestling, so forth and so on. I don't see her being another Lesnar where she's just going to show up occasionally. Mm-hmm. That's not Brock's fault, by the way. That's the contract he signed with WWE. They book him. They can, there's certain dates they can use. And I don't like the fact that Brock gets blamed for his rarity, his appearances being scarce, because the company signed that agreement. That's what they wanted, and they got a win-win on that deal, in my view. So, but Ronda's she's extraordinary, and she brings this great name identity to the UFC and her martial arts exploits. I mean, she's the woman, and some will argue that Gina Carano was one that put women's MMA on the map, and there's a good argument for that. But Ronda's the one that put her over the top. So she's a lot like Lesnar. She's got star appeal from two different pay-per-view buying entities, MMA audience and the WWE fans. So I don't think so. I don't think it's too much too soon, and I don't know where people come off of that or not. I don't understand it. It's an entertainment presentation. She got cast in this role, and by the studio, and that's where she is. And so, why she should be blamed for how she's cast, I find to be very ignorant. But nonetheless, I think she's a great investment, and she just will keep getting better. The thing about this thing, and Bubba, you've been I know you're a bully, I get it, but to me, you'll always be Bubba, and that's just me and you, I guess. But that's my affection to you, big rascal.
Thank you.
But I just think she's a world-class athlete that doesn't want to be second or third or fourth best on the roster. Now, people say, well, she's worse than that now. Okay, good job, Mr. Johnny Half-Empty Glass. But she will get better because that's her mindset. She's an Olympian. She's a world-class athlete. There are not a lot of those in that locker room, quite frankly, that are on her level. Are there any? So it's an interesting problem to have, fellas, but I don't think too much too soon for Ronda. she's got to get better. She was working with what I believe the best natural heel in the entire roster in Alexa Bliss, male or female. I really believe she's just a natural. She reminds me of those old footage when I was got on the road in the '70s. The guys were telling me about Buddy Rogers, the Nature Boy Buddy Rogers. He could be this great tan, look great body, look wonderful. People hadn't seen him before, no national TV, blah blah blah. And by the time he got in the ring, from leaving the locker room, he was a heel. How he walked, how he looked, how he sneered, facial expressions. He just pisses you off before the bell ever rang. So I just think she's a gift. Quite frankly, she's a big time player. So it's interesting problems to have. And gosh almighty, fellas, here's what's unique about this. 4 or 5 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, maybe a couple of years ago, we might not have been talking about women's wrestling at all unless we're talking about Moolah, because it didn't mean anything to a large degree as it means today. It meant something, but not like it does today. So good steps all the way around in that. But there's some very interesting problems to have, no doubt.
You know, I want to get into something that is amazing to me, and it's not lost on Bully or I, and I want to definitely get your opinion on this because we haven't been having the opportunity to talk about it. And you do so much with New Japan, and we can see you commentating for New Japan every Friday on Access TV. You know, we have the sellout at Madison Square Garden for Ring of Honor in New Japan coming up in April. First of all, did it surprise you that they were able to get into the building, and did it also surprise you how quickly they were able to sell it out?
Well, I was a little surprised about getting in the building because anyone that's followed the business knows that it may be the most expensive building in America to run. I know that we've done $1 million gates there for TV shoots, like a Raw or even a pay-per-view, and lost money on the house. And I know that to be factual because I had to do the payroll. And so everybody get pissed off at me because the check was light. But there's the union costs are obscene. My road manager, and you guys know Raphael Morphy, and
yep.
Raphael was there 12, 13 years, and that garden was one of his markets in New York City. And we've had long talks about this. They can sell out if they're going to do TV, which they almost have to do TV to try to just get some pay-per-view revenue to come in to make a profit. This event's not going to make a big profit for anybody involved based on the cost of running the venue. So, but it builds a brand. It's a great accomplishment to perform in the garden, but it's not a center of profitability for New Japan or for Ring of Honor, in my view, for that matter. But I don't have an issue with them running it and trying to build their brand and get some recognition and get on their big-time radar and all that stuff. The guys that never worked there, and Bubba, you know, that's a special building, man. It's not a Pollyanna story here. This ain't no Toby Keith country song, man. This is real stuff. When you walk in that building, there's a feeling that comes over you. It's just not another booking.
JR, I know you weren't with Vince when he found out the information, but you knowing Vince better than anybody else, do you think he sold it in any way? Do you think he, for the first time in a long time, had his feathers ruffled by another wrestling company?
Well, if he did, he's the world's greatest poker player. He ain't gonna sell nothing. You don't even want to see him sweat. So I doubt it. And publicly, I'm sure he did not, or around the masses, maybe in a real tight little inner circle, he may have expressed his, frustration that they did that. But when he stepped back and looked at it, WWE's not running that venue like they used to. Barclay has got the business right now. And so, how do you really blame the Garden for taking on more business? Because they weren't getting it from another source that they were used to. So he may have, I think he probably knows sold it, quite frankly, and moved on next, what's next, whatever. So we've been, we've had to do that so many times, many one-on-one meetings, where we had a dilemma, we had a big problem. But boy, once that problem is addressed and he has a solution that he believes to be right, it's up to the staff and the soldiers to carry it out. And that's what we all try to do in my area. The fewer meetings with him in his office, the better, quite frankly, because he's on a different level than most guys in that regard. But he knows what he wants. That goes back to the point about the guys in the Garden. I saw on Twitter which I don't know what that means. I'm just telling you my source. Right after that event was signed, there were a variety of guys that were getting or taking the credit for getting it done. I will say that between the New Japan organization and Ring of Honor, which I respect both groups, there's no issue here with me whatsoever, but there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. And you need one showrunner and you need one final voice, especially when you're running a venue like the Garden, because they're going to expect a show that is slick and clean and quickly run and efficient. And I don't know how many cooks in the kitchen it's going to take to get that done, but I'd like to go with that one head, and I don't see that right now. And I hope that it works out. The other thing is, you got a bunch of guys on that show that contracts are coming up long before that date even hits. So I think that card, we can fantasy book it right now in our head. Look, we've got this guy, with this tag team, with this. I don't know that everybody that's being planned is even going to be available contractually. So it's an interesting journey, and I'm anxious to see how it plays out. I don't know if it's going to be I would assume it's going to be a pay-per-view by ROH and New Japan, but it's an interesting booking, to say the least. And again, I'm glad they did it. It'll be interesting to see what happens. They can thank WWE for bringing a whole lot of folks to the Apple on that weekend. So as we all can, because we're all going to be doing something. I'm going to do a couple of shows WrestleMania next year, and we already have a venue and all that good stuff. So it's just they bring the people and they build the water, they build the pond, and we drink their water. So it's all good.
But on the other hand, too, I think it's really exciting that not only that show at the Garden with New Japan and Ring of Honor, but what we're going to see just at the end of this month, September 1st, with All In selling out under 30 minutes. It's exciting time right now for pro wrestling.
It is. I say this all the time on my audio show that there's no better time to be a fan. And I base that on there's no better time to be in the business, because a lot of guys, look at the age group of guys that are still making money and making a living by being entrepreneurs and finding it within our genre. Like Lawler and I on Thursday night, as you mentioned, are going to be in Zany's and Rosemont Comedy Club. Well, Jerry's 69. I'm 66. We've got work. Bubba's had an amazing career, Hall of Famer, multiple decades. And he's certainly a lot younger than us, but he's still working. I mean, working. I talked to Laura the other day. I said, we're talking about some of the dates. He said, I'm booked every weekend the rest of the year. Damn. I said, when are you going to stop this schedule? When they stop booking me. Oh, okay. So when he stops getting paid, so he's going to stop going. And right now, there's no light at the end of the tunnel that Jerry's, is not going to get. They're going to get less bookings. So it's a good time to be a fan, good time to be in the business, and I'm proud of those kids. I'm going to Chicago tonight, as a matter of fact. I'm interviewing the Young Bucks here in a little while, and for this week's podcast, I'm going to head to Chicago to meet Jerry there to do our show. But I think it's a good time, man. Business is good for everybody. Look, your show is a byproduct of how popular the business is. Not that your show would be popular if it were on a down cycle, but it damn sure helps with everybody when the business is on an upturn. And that's what you got right now. So all of us that are getting a piece of the pie are, kind of enjoying the taste of it.
JR, you mentioned you're going to speak to the Young Bucks, and I know JR, the head of talent relations, would do everything that he could from a financial point of view or from any point of view to try to sign the Young Bucks. But being out of the WWE now, what's the best advice you could give them? Because if they if they do go to the WWE, they'll never be able to be the versions of themselves that they want to be, but they'll make all the money in the world. If they stay in Ring of Honor, they can always do what they want. What advice would you give them?
I would give them the advice of you're a father, you're a husband, and that's your first obligation. So do what you have to do to financially care for your family in the best way possible. Because, we all know, unfortunately, that there's a shelf life for all you cats who are out there bouncing around and beating yourselves up. And somewhere along the way, your bump card gets full and you're done. I believe they take the opportunity to make as much money as you can. They're not a CPA. They're not, Dave is not going to hurt himself doing the show. unless he trips and falls or something like I would do. It's not a dangerous role. It's just not. But what the wrestlers do is that's dangerous. And I believe that you can't do it for 40 years or whatever. There's exceptions. I get it. I understand. But I would do it to take care of my family. I think that's why Matt Riddle signed with WWE. I talked to him long before he made that final decision, and we were getting ready to talk about that. And he talked to me. He just seemed to be very. He said it's time for me to be a dad. Time for me to be a better father. Be home more. He had 3 kids, maybe 3 or 4. But these young guys who got families, man, that's your first obligation to take care of your family. And I believe that wholeheartedly. Take care of your children and your wife and provide them some security. And you mentioned you can make more money in wrestling in WWE than just about anywhere. The thing about their deal with WWE, and I'm not trying to recruit them, yea or nay, but they're going to sell a hell of a lot of merchandise in that space. A lot of guys will make a big money on their royalties, and as you know, brother, that's significant money 4 times a year.
JR, I do want to get into your show tomorrow night at Zany's. You're doing it with Jerry the King Lawler. Talk about what fans can expect buying a ticket for your show at Zany's tomorrow night.
Well, Jerry and I did our first show together of this presentation last Thursday in Nashville at Zany's, by the way. And it was kind of amazing how we had not missed a beat as far as our timing was concerned. I'm not telling you that every joke we had or every story we told was uproariously funny, because that's a subjective deal, but it was amazing. It'd be like Bubba and Devon having a tag match. They ain't going to have to sit around all day to figure out what they're going to do. Now, you do this, Devon. Okay, I'll do that. Bubba, you do. No, we don't need that. There's a feel thing. Instincts. And that's how we worked together at ringside. We had instincts, and we didn't have we had a run sheet, but we didn't have, statements to say, things like that. We did what we felt like was the best to get the talent over. It's always about getting the talent over, period, in a story. I feel like today sometimes these guys are so motivated to talk about storyline. Well, 3 years ago, he won 8 matches in 4 days. I don't give a damn about 3 years ago, to be honest with you. Not in the context of when there's movement in the ring. I've always said when there's movement in the ring, you should be talking about the movement in the ring. And when the guys are engaging, they're fighting, they're wrestling. So apparently it's not as compelling to call it now because we know it's not the finish. I just think it's a huge turnoff. And but we had that instinct where we call what we thought would get the talent over, and it seemed like it worked pretty well in a very pivotal time in the company's history. So nobody has had our journey. Nobody and you two dudes know about everybody. Nobody's had our exact journey. Nobody's been on the broadcast team during the Attitude Era when the company was looking like it was going to go after reconstructed financially, and then sit there on Monday nights during this amazing time. That was our gig. And so nobody can tell the stories or have the experiences that we've had. I think it's a great chance to do the meet and greet, the photo ops, and stuff that we like to do before the show. I think it starts at 6 o'clock there in Chicago on Thursday, the meet and greet, and tickets are still available for that. We enjoy that because it's photos and pics, and the fans generally, and I'm sure, Bubba, you get the same thing, they tell you stories about what they liked about what you did. They have a Dudley story. They have a J.R. the King story, that kind of thing. So I love hearing that stuff.
JR, for fans that might not know, obviously you and King have worked together on air for so long, but outside of the ring, you have been friends for a long time also, correct?
Yes.
So I just want to ask this question on a little bit of a personal note. Both of you have endured some tragedies in your life, you with your wife and him with his son recently. Has these unfortunate events brought you two even closer?
Yeah, good question, Bubba. Very perceptive. Absolutely. He was there for me when Shan got killed, and calls and texts and offers to come here or me to come there and hang with him come down here and spend a few days, a few weeks, wherever you want. Yeah, it's pulled us together, and for me now, because of what he did for me, I was really motivated to make sure that, I want to do some shows with him because I think we have a good concept. It's unique, and people got great questions on the Attitude Era, et cetera, or our careers. No questions off limits. That's the great thing about us. And we don't have them written down. We don't vet them, nothing. Just use your good judgment. If you got something in your mind, let's hear it, and we'll address it. And hopefully in an entertaining and informative way. But when Jerry's son, Brian, died, I felt, and we had these shows already booked, I felt even more motivation to make it an enjoyable experience for Jerry. And man, the old King was there last week. He was so excited. The audience was loving him and appreciating him and embracing him, standing ovations. You could see the tears in his eyes. He tried to no-sell it as best he could, but it was hard. But I got more motivated when Brian died than before. I wish that had not happened, but obviously. But yeah, I think it brought us together. A good question. That's the thing about. We talk about booking, Becky Lynch, all these things. It's human nature. Sometimes I think the writers that are younger, that haven't had too many life experiences, sometimes they're reluctant to draw on those life experiences because they're just not that deep. They're not there. So they can fully utilize basic human emotion. When a friend that you like is in trouble, i.e. the babyface is selling, you should care. In real life, you should care. And in a wrestling environment, if you suspend your disbelief, you should care as well. So I just think sometimes those human elements are omitted in today's wrestling creative all around the board. But yeah, Jerry's. This is good for both. This is very cathartic, quite frankly, for both of us. And I think you'll probably see a whole lot more dates in 2019. We're looking at some tours and some things. So, but it's great. Think about going into having a big match. You, Bubba, you and Devon, and how much you look forward to it because you know that you're not going to spend all your time prior to the match lining it out. Okay, let's start here. Here's our finish. You guys got 20 minutes. Have a hell of a match. I don't need to know every arm drag, every headlock, every look at the crowd, every what's up. That's your deal. Put it in there when you want it. And if the match isn't good, then we can address that later on. But I have every confidence you're going to call the right plays. And you know what works for you. So that's kind of where we are with that. I just think Jerry it's good. And I talked to him yesterday. He's very excited about this week, tomorrow night. And sometimes for us, older dudes, it can be cynical. Having those moments are rarities. And so we're in one of those rare moments right now that I can't wait to be a part of.
The show is live with JR and the King. It's live at Zany's in Rosemont, Illinois. Limited tickets are available, so you definitely want to get on that. Go to Zany's.com. And, of course, JR is not only the voice for New Japan On Access, but he has a tremendous show that you need to definitely listen to. It's called The Jim Ross Report, and it drops every single Wednesday. Who do you got this week, JR?
Young Bucks.
Awesome.
Young Bucks are going to hop on with me this week. We're going to talk about All In. I've been invited from the very get-go to come to All In, and I really wanted to, but I didn't commit because Oklahoma plays their season opener that day at home. Again. What the hell?
Priorities.
You want a payday or do you want to go to the ball game? No, I'll go to the ball game. But here's the nice news about that. I'm breaking it right here that it looks like I'm going to be a part of the weekend to some degree. We're still working out the details because of this reason. The kickoff for the OU Florida Atlantic game, coached by young Lane Kiffin, White Meat Babyface, is 11 a.m. Central. So my game will be over by around 2 o'clock, and I'm looking like I'm going to be on a flight later that afternoon to Chicago, because I really wanted to get there just to find me a spot to watch the wrestling. Not being a part of it, but I'm going to be part of the fan. But so it looks like I'm going to try to make that. Then if I'm there on Saturday, I'm thinking Conrad's going to find something for me to do on Sunday. So more details on that. You guys are getting it first. But very good, I'd say 95% chance that old JR will be in Chicago for All In some capacity, in some way. And I'm proud of that because it's our business. You guys are like me. We all are the same. We started out as fans. We've evolved with jobs within the wrestling business that we love. So now that this event's going to take place, I don't need to be a part of it. I don't need to be sitting at the announce desk. I don't need to be doing anything other than sitting and enjoying the show like I started out my whole journey, sitting and watching wrestling and loving. So a lot of good things going on, and I'm proud of those kids. You know, I'm looking forward to talking to young bucks today. Hey, they're bright kids, and I'm sure we'll talk about WWE at some point. Again, I just believe you got to take care of your family first. That's your obligation if you're married, and then you're in a relationship, and especially if you're a dad, for goodness sake. So good time to be around, guys. I really appreciate you guys too, and we're all enjoying being fans and getting paid for it to some degree.
Well, like you said, we talk about Chicago and All In next week, or as we get approaching September 1st. But if you're in the Chicago area tomorrow, definitely go to zanies.com. Get your tickets for Live with JR and the King. Jim Ross, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for the time.
You bet, guys. Thank you very much for having me on. I love you, boys.
All right, love you too, JR.